Hello, and this is QTV News. I am Amudu Gajaga. Welcome and thank you for joining us. First, we look at our main news headlines. As an online or e-recruitment system has been launched, which from now on will be the method of applying for public sector jobs. The first batch of Gambian pilgrims left for Mecca in the early hours of Sunday for this year's Hajj and have landed safely in Madinah, Saudi Arabia. We hear about a survey which assesses the public's access to timely and comprehensive budget information and measures the extent to which governments include the public in fiscal decision-making and monitoring. In international news, the West African Bar Association and Amnesty International say the human rights implications for citizens under junta regimes in Mali, Burkina Faso and Guinea are unpleasant, and the economic sanctions from regional bodies have brought great hardship for people of these three countries. Those were the main news headlines, and now the news in detail. Welcome and thank you if you're just joining us. This is QTV News. The Minister for Public Service, Administrative Reform, Policy Coordination and Delivery, Babukar Juve, Tuesday called on all government institutions to use the newly developed government digital portal for recruitment. He was speaking at the launch of the PSC e-recruitment system created to ease challenges in dealing with job applications for public institutions. Here is Ansumana Isonyasi.
I therefore have reached the point where I feel I need to make this pronouncement that from henceforth, all ministries and departments of the government will only be able to use the PSC e-recruitment portal to hire employees from grade 3 to grade 11.
This pronouncement by the Minister for the Public Service, Babukar Juve, ushers in a new era in the drive to transform the public sector by digitalizing government recruitment systems. With the introduction of this new portal, developed by a Gambian-based company, Nifty ICT Solutions, those seeking government jobs no longer need to apply in person or endure the struggle of having to travel long distances to apply or make inquiries about their applications. Minister Juve says this is part of government's drive to promote transparency.
I wish to also pronounce that neither the Ministry of Public Service nor the Public Service Commission, and by mention of the ministry, by implication I was referring to the old days when you would apply through the the Personnel Management Office, those things cease immediately, because from now on we do not have files to keep your applications. Go to the portal and apply digitally and follow the process right up to selection, right now.
The Secretary General and Head of the Civil Service, Salimata Ture, says this new system will transform the public service and shows that government not only embraces the idea of digitalizing all government systems, but is taking concrete actions towards ensuring effective service delivery. Also in attendance, the Minister for Communication and Digital Economy, Usman Bah, welcomes what he calls a major shift that will be of significant impact on the credibility of all government recruitment processes, and went on to share a few recommendations to the developers and the Public Service Commission for consideration.
Today marks the first time in our government's history that we are transitioning from a paper-based to an electronic job application system. This transition is integral to our collective ambition to become a digitized nation.
We have a lot of work to do, starting with, from the mom and pop who is selling Garsasaf, how can they increase their revenue, to the State House, how can they leverage the automation where people can use these services, they can apply anything they want to apply, forms, license, any kind of application or any kind of service process online without having to physically go into the place and be online.
also known as online recruitment. Once it comes into force, this new e-recruitment system will assist the recruitment processes of all government departments. Jalang Jobate, the CEO of Nifty ICT Solutions, whose company developed the portal, said the system is user-friendly and will help applicants in tracking the progress of their applications, amongst other invaluable services. Meanwhile, Lamin Samate, the chairman of the Public Service Commission, commended government for this laudable initiative. He reveals that thousands of appointments were done manually, describing the process as tiring, adding that this new e-recruitment system is convenient and provides for live updates from the point of application submission through validation, shortlisting and selection. The event was attended by the Vice President and several other cabinet ministers. Ansmane Sonyase for KTV News.
Following their departure from Banjul International Airport the early hours of Sunday morning, the first batch of Gambian pilgrims have safely arrived in Medina in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia to perform the 2022 Hajj in Mecca. QTV's Babakar Sise is with the pilgrims and he filed in this report.
Lion Air A330 left the Gambia just after midnight on Saturday with over 400 pilgrims. The pilgrims are registered with 9 Gambian Hajj operators accredited by the Gambia Hajj Commission in collaboration with the local government ministry. After a long 8-hour flight, the pilgrims finally arrived at the Abdul Aziz International Airport in the holy city of Madinah. At the Abdul Aziz International Airport, all pilgrims went through strict COVID-19 procedures, documentation, passport, medical and vaccination checks before boarding buses to their respective hotels in Madinah. Hajj, the 5th pillar of Islam, will commence on 9 July, which is the 8th Dhul Hijjah in the Islamic calendar. The pilgrims will stay in Madinah for a few days and then proceed to the holy city of Mecca to perform the Hajj, which lasts for 5 days. Meanwhile, at Madinah, pilgrims will have the chance to visit holy sites, including the graveyard of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and his other 2 companions, Abu Bakr and Omar, and other holy places. They will also observe daily prayers at the Prophet Mosque, Al-Masjid Al-Nabawi, where, according to the Prophet, praying a single rakat is better than 1,000 prayers in any other mosque. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, this year, the quota for the Gambia is only 905 pilgrims. Also, due to the challenges that come with aging and potential underlying health conditions, the Saudi authorities are not allowing those above 65 years to perform Hajj. Babakar Sise, QTV News, Madinah, Saudi Arabia.
Gambia participates in partnership with the International Budget Partnership, IBP, on Tuesday shared with the media and civil society organizations its biannual International Open Budget Survey. Loli M. Camara was at the event and she now reports.
The survey seeks to assess the public access to timely and comprehensive budget information, measure the extent to which governments include the public in the budget decision-making and monitoring, as well as the roles and effectiveness of the legislature and Supreme Audit institution in the budget process. Speaking to QTV shortly after the presentation, Mar Nyang, the executive director of the Gambia Participates, highlighted the key areas looked at during the survey. He says this is the 8th edition of the Open Budget Survey.
So what we actually look at in this Open Budget Survey is how transparent and comprehensive the government budget documents are, and then how participatory the level of opportunity that is given to the public to participate in the budget process, from formulation all the way to the reporting process. And then also the oversight institutions, what are their oversight roles? Do they use their oversight roles in?
According to Mr. Nyang, in 2019, the International Budget Partnership conducted a survey in over 120 countries, including the Gambia. However, in terms of transparency, he said the Gambia didn't do well. He further explains.
It's biannual, like I said. 2019 we didn't do well, but in 2021 we have seen some level of improvement that have been registered. We've scored 35 out of 100, so from 4 to 35 at 31 point that have been scored for the Gambia, and as a result, Gambia has been, identified as the top transparency improver. But that does not mean to say that we are the best in terms of transparency, but in terms of the increment that has been registered.
The executive director urges the government to engage citizens in the budget decision-making process.
If you have a budget that is participatory, it tends to address the needs of the public because it is a budget that is informed by the priorities of the citizens instead of it being informed based on the needs of the government. Government, although represents the people, but the people should not only receive the end product of the budget, they should be able to inform how the products look like. So that's why it's important to have a participatory budget mechanism.
Mr. Nyang revealed some of the challenges encountered during the process and gave these recommendations.
The difficulty in assessing documents, especially the mid-year review. This document is actually prepared but available for internal use. And then also the year-end report also is produced for internal use. The reason why I say for internal use is actually available at the ministries, but it's not actually available. What we have is actually the year-end the in-year report, which covers January to December expenditure report. So what we're looking at is both the expenditure and the revenue that have been collected, and not only for government local fund, but all the other funds that the government receive from their bilateral and multilateral partners. Recommendations is to make sure the year-end report is made available on time, the audit report is made on time, and then also the mid-year review. And this document is not only for them to be on time, but then the content of it, especially the year-end report and then the mid-year review, they have to be comprehensive and they have to cover all the other funds, not only government local funds. But my biggest recommendation is also the ministries, different ministries, to engage the public during the formulation of the budget.
Gambia Participates is a civil society organization that works around, but not limited to, strengthening anti-corruption work, physical transparency, elections, transitional justice, and rural community development in Africa. For QTV News, Lolly M. Camara.
That report by Lolly M. Camara takes us to a commercial break, and when we return, we still have some more news stories for you. Do stay tuned.
You talked about deploying 500 street beans.
Residential waste collection was non-existent.
How would you justify continuing charging at the $10?
Even our staff are controlled by government. So people have to educate themselves and have to shame people when they litter. 80% of KM residents are not paying their rate, and so Gambia needs a policy around importation of second-hand goods.
In what state did you find KMC?
As you know, for many years, KMC was used more of a political wing. We found a lot of deficits in terms of our bank balances at the council.
Step closer to name our streets, for example.
We are a step closer. Yeah.
And it's going to actually beat the crime down in our community.
Absolutely. Most of the blockage, I would say, is caused by mechanics.
I think there is so much money in KMC.
I did not say I didn't have money. I don't sign checks. I don't deal with finance.
How political is your office? What are your main priorities for KMC?
Your term ends in December, right?
Yes.
Would you seek re-election?
State of Affairs, airing tonight at 9 p.m. on QTV.
Have you been looking for the perfect indoor router with long-range Wi-Fi coverage and faster internet speed connecting all your smart devices? Well, we present to you the QCell Indoor Router, a router that has all you need and much more. For just $4,750, you can get 4G plus internet speed, wide coverage, and connect up to 15 devices. And that's not all. The indoor router can be used for both office and home needs. So, enhance your internet experience with our indoor router. For more info, call our customer care on 111. QCell, Sunubus, we innovate, others follow.
Welcome back, and thank you very much if you're just joining us. This is QTV News. The Small Ruminant Production Enhancement Project, SRPEP, under the Ministry of Agriculture, handed over communication and surveillance equipment on Friday to the Department of Livestock Services, DLS, and the Gambia Livestock Marketing Agency, GLMA, to strengthen their capacity in collection, processing, and analysis and reporting. Omar P. Jallo witnessed the handing over and filed in this report.
The data collected will help reduce disease prevalence and mortality, especially PPR, a major killer disease of small ruminants. The objective of the Small Ruminant Production Enhancement Project, SRPEP, is to contribute to the improvement of the livelihood of pastoral communities in the Gambia by strengthening the productivity and resilience of rural communities and stimulating business entrepreneurship in the livestock sector. The project is implemented in 39 districts of all regions of the country. The donated items include 3 Toyota pickup vehicles, 30 motorbikes, 100 tablets, 15 laptops, and 6 desktop computers worth over $50 million. In his welcoming remarks, the project director, Small Ruminant Production Enhancement Project, Mahmoud Njai, said to improve small ruminant production in the Gambia, there must be a reduction of the prevalence and mortality caused by PPR and other diseases, adding that these surveillance equipment and materials has been procured to enhance the capacity of the Department of Livestock Services and the Gambia Livestock Marketing Agency to monitor and control diseases.
To improve small ruminant production in the Gambia, there should be a reduction of the prevalence and mortality of PPR. It has a high morbidity and mortality rate in the small ruminants of this country. And it is the project's objective to reduce the mortality rate of PPR to 10% or less.
The director of the Department of Livestock Services, Dr. Abdou Sise, said major challenges affecting the livestock sector include high incidences of infectious diseases that have devastating effects on the domestic animals, which our farmers heavily depend on for their livelihood, adding that a weak extension system also continues to take a heavy toll on livestock production.
Socio-economically, livestock continues to significantly contribute to our GDP as well as our cultural and religious commitments.
The Director General of the Gambia Livestock Marketing Agency, Gilma, Mamadou Dabo, said provision of this equipment will assist the agency in their routine field visits to all 25 major markets and slaughter facilities across the country.
I commend the work done by the project and promise that materials which are to be handed over today will be put into good use in order to facilitate the development of the livestock industry based on the data-guided decision-making.
Handing over the equipment to the beneficiary institutions, the project coordinator of the Central Project Coordinating Unit, Abdoulaye Toure, representing the Minister of Agriculture, thanked the government for creating an enabling environment and gave an assurance of the ministry's support to the project. He said they will ensure accountability and transparency for effective implementation of the project's activities. He urges the beneficiaries to take good care of the materials and equipment and use them for the intended purpose.
This surveillance equipment was secured through the normal procurement procedures of the ISDB in consultation and in collaboration with the implementing partner in identification and assessment of the required materials and equipment.
The 4-year project is funded by the Islamic Development Bank, ISDB, and is a loan to the government of the Gambia. It seeks to discourage the importation of small ruminants from neighboring countries, thereby encouraging self-sufficiency in meat production by increasing the population of small ruminants, alleviating poverty and food insecurity, and provide job creation opportunities for women and youth. It is the biggest purely livestock production enhancement project that the Gambia government has ever secured from the Islamic Development Bank. Reporting for KTV News, I am Omar P. Jallo.
The Vitiligo Association of the Gambia was officially launched on Saturday, 25th June, which is World Vitiligo Day. The association intends to combat stigmatization of people living with vitiligo. Ajibintu Drame has the details.
To commemorate the day and inaugurate the association, a march past proceeded along Keraba Avenue to the Westfield Youth Monument in Carnifin. The purpose of World Vitiligo Day is to recognize people with vitiligo and spread awareness of this condition, which affects 1 to 2% of global population. This awareness is needed as people with vitiligo continue to suffer a lot of discrimination. This year, the day is commemorated on the theme, Learning to Live with Vitiligo. To the dismay of the organizers, people with vitiligo did not attend the launching of the association. The founder of the Vitiligo Association, Buba Jammeh, says people are not willing to come out due to discrimination and stigmatization. He says the aim of the association is to help people living with the skin disorder. He explains.
2009, late 2009, early 2010, I started seeing some white patches on my skin, and which was very difficult, very confusing, because I didn't know what it was. And then I was asked to go and see my GP, which is the doctor. And when I went there, I was told I got vitiligo. and I don't know what vitiligo was, and I was asked to embrace that it's going to spread more and more.
Vitiligo is a condition that causes loss of melanin in the skin. This causes patchy discoloration across the skin. Vitiligo may be developed at birth or throughout one's life. A family history of vitiligo can make you more prone to developing it. One may also develop vitiligo as a response to autoimmune disease. In the Gambia, many people with vitiligo take unconventional means to cure the disease. Buba Jammeh implores people to refrain from such practices as this is likely to cause them harm. He thanked his family members and friends for their immense support throughout the journey to the founding of this association.
I've got the universal one, which is very rare. I've lost pigments in 80 to 90% of my body. I'm just here. Sometimes people confuse me for tubab. Some confuse me for I've undergone skin bleaching. That is not the case. It's vitiligo, purely cosmetic, not painful, not contagious. It doesn't transfer to anybody. You cannot have a kid and transfer to them. Nothing happens. It's just you. If you got it, it's just you.
Vitiligo is little known in the Gambia, and people incorrectly associate the skin disorder using local terminology such as laka, meaning burn, or kuli, where an allergic reaction causes skin discoloration. Lamin Sambu, representing Director of Health Promotion and Education, Ministry of Health, urges the public, especially the media and schools, to create more awareness of the day.
There is no treatment for, there is no local treatment, there is no concoction you can drink, there is no naso, there is no safo, there is no moro who can cure the condition. It is not. So I will also emphasize the point that those with vitiligo must not and should not visit traditional healers.
The first World Vitiligo Day was commemorated in 2011 and was led by Ogo Maduwesi, founder and president of Vitiligo Support and Awareness Foundation in Lagos, Nigeria, and has been observed ever since. One of the main motives for observing this day is to discuss the many myths surrounding this condition. For this day, more research about the disease should be done, and people's willingness to accept people living with vitiligo is a step towards combating the impact of discrimination. Ajibintu Drame, QTV News.
That report by Ajibintu Drame takes us now to international news. The West Africa Bar Association and Amnesty International say the human rights implications for citizens under junta regimes in Mali, Burkina Faso and Guinea are unpleasant, and the economic sanctions from regional bodies have brought great hardship for the people of these three countries. Aliou Cissé reports.
Delivering a presentation on unconstitutional change of government in West Africa and implications for human rights of citizens, Obia Geli Oraka, Program Director with the West Africa Bar Association, told ECOWAS parliamentarians that our organization has observed that the human rights situations in Mali, Guinea and Burkina Faso are multifaceted, with the military government in Mali accused of enforced disappearances and arbitrary detention of senior civil servants and opposition. It also observed that access to farmlands and water has been used as a negotiating power by the army to force solidarity with the regime. In Burkina Faso, she said that most human rights violations are perpetrated by armed groups in northern and eastern parts of the country, who carry out systematic attacks against civilians equating to war crimes. There have also been cases of sexual violence as reported by Doctors Without Borders. While in Guinea, it is like their counterparts, with the same forms of violation of human rights and freedoms characterized by junta regimes persisting. Victims are denied justice and reparations amidst a lack of willingness to constitute a legitimate government. Oraka said the sanctions imposed on the countries by ECOWAS are biting deeply and socio-economic rights of citizens are in shambles. She recommended, among other things, for ECOWAS to have an honest conversation around manipulation of constitution to enable Exim to stay in office.
ECOWAS should also initiate sanctions targeting specific individuals in power and their families, rather than this kind of sanctions that would really affect the entire populace, thereby subjecting them to untold hardship.
Oraka used the presentation to clarify once again that the delegation that visited former President Yahya Jammeh during the 2016 political impasse were not in any way representing the West Africa Bar Association as was claimed. There was a similar presentation by Osei Ojugo, country director of Amnesty International Nigeria, who strongly condemned impunity for conflict-related crimes.
Our investigations have exposed several human rights violations and abuses in several countries. We welcome this opportunity to address the ECOWAS Parliament on the occasion of its first ordinary session in June 2022. The human rights situation in ECOWAS countries varies from one country to another. However, despite these disparities, cross-cutting issues can help understand the pressing needs for human rights protection in the region.
Members of the ECOWAS Parliament expressed similar concerns raised by the presenters and called for respect of the rights of the citizens in the affected countries. Reporting for QTV News from Abuja, Nigeria, I am Aliou Cisse.
Well, that's all we have time for in this edition of the news, but don't forget to join us again at 10 for another bulletin.